questions we're going to ask have to do with enrollment over time. So we're going to introduce that second variable, the year enrolled. We're going to look at total enrollment, we're going to look at proportion enrollment, and then we're going to calculate the percent change. Let's start by just looking at the overall enrollment. Well, we're going to need to add them up, aren't we? Let's type the word total, and we need to add how many students in total were enrolled in 2011. So we want to sum those numbers there. Let's start by doing it very simply. Let's start by totaling it using a formula. So we're going to write our own formula equals the number of Californians plus other states plus outside America plus unknown. And when I hit enter, that will calculate and return the total number of students enrolled. When I click on that cell, I see the answer to the formula in the cell. I see the actual formula that's used to create it up in the formula bar. That's one way of totaling. Another way of totaling is to use a function. So let's use the sum function that adds up an array of numbers. So I've typed equals SUM, I've opened parentheses, I've got my mouse cursor, and I'm going to click and hold and drag down those four, and then I'm going to hold the shift key and type the close parenthesis, and then I'm going to hit the enter key. So we can see that the total number of enrollment went up slightly from 2011 to 2012. When I click into that cell, I see the answer there. I see the formula up in the corner, up on the formula bar. Let's fill that formula across for 2013 and 2014. There are those numbers. So just looking at that data, you could answer the question, is enrollment increasing over time? Is it decreasing over time? Or is it staying roughly the same? And with four numbers like that, it's very easy just to look at those. But we could also visualize it. Let's make a line chart or a line graph. So this is the data that I want in my line graph. I'm going to click and drag to highlight that. Under the insert ribbon, I'm going to come over here to my charts and I'm going to find the line, and I'm going to choose that first one, that first line. And it's popped it right on top of the other one. Let's just move it over here a little bit, shall we? So here's my initial line graph, and that's showing that increase in enrollment. We need to format it. Let's see. First off, let's go with the axis labels. So we need, now hang on a second. We need some, we've just got 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want 1, 2, 3, 4 as our points down there as our categories. We want 2011, 12, 13, 14. This is a great time to remember what we did just a minute ago. How did we get California, other states outside? How did we get those labels? Do you remember when we created that chart, we had both of the labels and the data selected. When we created this line chart, we only had the data selected. Okay, so let's see if we can just throw those labels in and have them show up in that 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to click and drag and highlight those labels. And then I'm going to hold down the command key, and I'm going to click and drag over the data. So remember, it's the command key or the squash bug that allows you to select non-adjacent arrays. So now I've got my labels and my data selected. So let's start again. Insert, line. Okay, did it work? No, it did not work. Do you see what it's doing? It's thinking that 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014 is one set of data, and it's thinking that 31,732 is the other set of data. So that didn't work. Why not? Why are they different? What does Excel see differently in 2011, 2012 that it didn't see in California or the United States? Yep, obviously, they're numbers. We're going to have to force Excel to recognize 2011 not as a number. And this is a nifty little trick here. To make it recognize that 2011 is text and not number, I've single-clicked in the cell. I'm coming up to the formula bar, and I'm single-clicking right before to the left of the 2, and I'm going to type an apostrophe. The single apostrophe, not the double quotation marks, the one that's right next to the enter or return key. Now when I tab, let's see. Well, I don't see the apostrophe displayed, but it has, what has changed? It has changed to be aligned left. So it is now recognizing that as text. I can click and add that apostrophe and tab to go to the next cell. I can also double click into the cell and be editing the data right there in the cell. So a double click brings my cursor to be active right there in the cell. All right. So now let's get rid of these line graphs that didn't work. We're going to click and drag and select our data labels. We're going to hold down the command key to select non-contiguous arrays. We've got our data labels. We're going to go to the insert ribbon and insert a line. Okay, this is looking a lot better. We now have our data labels along the horizontal axis, the x-axis. Now, what should we have for the chart title? Remember, the standard is outcome variable by predictor variable. So let's see what, well, the outcome variable is enrollment again, right? So enrollment by, in this case, our predictor variable is by year, enrollment by year. Our line graph doesn't have a legend, which is great. That's fine. There's only one piece of data. So with only one data series being plotted, we really don't need a legend. If your graph did show up with a legend, don't panic. We can always delete it. You would just click on it to select it and then hit the backspace key or the delete key, or under our chart design, you could choose none for no legend. Let's talk about the axes and the scales and titles. Let's start with the y-axis, the one going up and down. That's very crowded. It makes it hard to read with all of those increments. So let's force Excel to make it a little simpler and easier to read. So to change the scale, I'm going to single click and then double click. So I clicked to select the axis, and then I double clicked and that popped up the Format Axis dialog box. And here, let's see what we can edit. I can absolutely force Excel to use a different scale. So here is what they're telling me is their minimum and the maximum that they're using. The overall scale seems fine. We want the line to take up about the middle 2/3 of the graph, and that's what it's doing. We don't need to start with a zero baseline. And in fact, in this case, it would be quite silly to start with a zero baseline because that would really minimize any the pattern. Let me show you what that would look like if we did put a zero baseline in. Because the scale has now gone from 0 up to 35,000, the slope of the line has really been minimized, and it is looking a lot less like an increasing line. We want to be sure that we're neither accentuating or exaggerating or minimizing the scale of our data. To reduce the clutter, to reduce all of those tick marks, what we're going to do is down in the next unit, say under the units, say instead of having the major unit be 500, let's have the major unit be 1,000. And I've selected that, typed that in. I'm now going to hit the tab key, and that's going to apply the changes. Oh yes, that's much clearer, isn't it? That's really taken away all of those grid lines and that clutter. Let's just have a look at what else we've got here. So it's asking us what sort of tick marks we want, and we've said none. It's asking us if we need to label it, and it's asking us what number we want. It's a good job that we don't have decimal places. Decimal places would be silly in this situation, and again would just be adding clutter. All right, I feel we've done well in that dialog box. So let's go ahead and add a title. We're going to come back up to the Add Chart element, and under the Axis Titles, we're going to say, give us a primary vertical title. So what would be an appropriate title in this case? What is that data, the 32,000, 33,000, 34,000? Oh, it's the number of students, isn't it? So I need to select that data. If I single click, my cursor is then active in that text box. If I double click, it will select one word. If I triple click, it will select the whole text box, all of the text, and then I can just type to replace it. So number of students. Let's try that. And that should be written in title case with the primary words capitalized. We can increase the font, make that easy to read. We could increase the font on our data labels. How about a title for our x-axis? We click to select the chart. Under Chart Design, Add Chart Element, Primary Horizontal. And so this is enrollment by year. And here is the title year. Let me increase the font size here too. So it looks like that line graph is acceptable. It's really very good. Go ahead and copy it and paste it into your Word document and add a sentence or two that just describes what do you see there? What is the trend in enrollment by year from the year 2011 to 2014?